Well, they recommended this manga to me recently, and it's a manga that seems to be about a girl who's kind of a psychopath who likes the protagonist. Anyway, let's read it. The story starts with a boy wanting to commit the opposite of living because he's suffering from something. This will be explained a little later, but when he's on top of the theater wanting to commit the opposite of living, a really weird girl shows up. She says some things and he thinks she's trying to stop him from committing the opposite of living. He says it's no use, but she ends up showing him a dying crow, saying that this crow is beautiful. He says, not here, denying it, but she says, because it's dead and turned into rotten trash, wanting to show that he'll end up the same way. Well, even so, he refuses, and she says he can become her puppet. In exchange, she'll give him all the happiness he needs. She'll make him happy. Even so, she makes a deal with him. She grabs him and pulls him straight toward death, saying that if he survives the fall, they'll make this deal. He'll be her puppet. Right here, he ends up remembering why he wanted to commit the opposite of living. He suffered a lot of bullying because he stepped in dog poop and stuff, and there was a guy who harassed him at school. Yeah, he was going through a lot of bullying, but I don't think it's a very good reason to commit the opposite of living. Anyway, they end up falling and surviving, and it seems he breaks his arm. Even so, the little girl dances with him, saying he's now her puppet, and they have to dance to the music. And he asks the question anyone would, "Why are you doing this?" And she answers, "Because I'm bored, so I'll make others happy." That's exactly what she says. And after that, she plants a big kiss on his mouth, saying this is already the start of a deal. This girl seems like a demon. Of course, she warns him that if he ever rebels against her, she'll destroy him or break her puppet. That was a subtle threat if he does anything against her. Well, she asks, "What would you want to do to make you happy?" And he quickly answers that he wants revenge on those who bullied him. And she, with a very psychopathic expression, says she'll make his wish come true. The next day, he goes to school as usual. The bullies show up, wanting to mess with him. They see him with a cast and want to write on it, but he doesn't let them. So what happens is they say they'll let it go and leave. But when he turns his back, he gets a flying kick and falls. Another one recorded it, and he ends up getting beaten. Not only that, but they also said they'd hit him with their hands. They only didn't because the new girl showed up. No, the teacher showed up too afterward, and he starts to take an interest. The bully goes to where she says her name, which is Tomoka Kubo, but we'll call her Tom or Tomoka. Well, the bully goes to talk to her, asking for her contact and stuff. She gives him her contact and says they'll get along fine. But she shows interest in him and goes to talk to the guy, John, who's the protagonist, asking his name because he hadn't said it yet. And he says his name is Kiba-Yudo. Then the guy, the bully, gets upset because the girl's not paying attention to him but to Yudo. So he tries to get her attention, saying he stepped in dog poop and mocking him, which I thought was a load of crap. And she says the same thing, that it was a load of crap. It was lame because, like, it's not important, and ignores him. And he gets even more upset, so he posts the video in the WhatsApp group they added her to, the video where he gave the protagonist, Kiba, a big kick. After that, she joins him at a table he loves up on the roof, where they eat together, and she talks about the revenge plan, showing him the video they posted in the group. She says he wasn't supposed to look, but she looked at it anyway. She plans to post this video, actually, for him to post it on YouTube, to get views and show a humiliating situation. The protagonist doesn't want to because he thinks it'll be too embarrassing and might even make things worse for him, but she literally convinces him with manipulation, saying he's her own puppet, so he has no choice. She even says it's more guaranteed for justice to be done, and with this video posted, society will do the rest of the work for them since the school doesn't care about him. And yeah, he ends up posting it on YouTube. He starts getting a ton of comments, everyone saying it's the same school as theirs and all that. It got views really fast, and then he drops his phone all shocked and she hugs him, saying, "Good job," showing how manipulative she is. Then the bully's friend shows up, telling him the video leaked on YouTube. He says he doesn't care because he thinks it won't amount to anything, but then a crazy guy doing a stream shows up, saying he wants to talk to him. No, he wants to put a banner on him. He tries to put it on, but the bully punches the crazy guy. Then the guy says, "You hit me. Did you see the chat? He's a really aggressive bully." And the chat tells him to hit back. He ends up beating the guy, but then the chat gets hyped. He says it's all a joke, that the guy's wearing his banner and everyone buys the prank excuse. But soon after, the bully starts explaining a sad story about himself. That when he started school and saw this guy, Kiba, who he beats up so much, he thought Kiba was a cool guy. He wanted to be friends with Kiba because Kiba seemed popular. But when he approached Kiba, Kiba was much quieter, couldn't communicate much with him, and he stepped in dog poop. He even says, he stepped in dog poop, but he didn't make a big deal out of it. He started picking on him more because Kiba ignored it, said it wasn't funny, and made a face like he was annoyed. That shocked him a little and even made him harass him more. But the guy streaming says he doesn't care about that stuff and says he's just trying to beg for pity. So he starts beating him up. The next day at school, the teacher tells the students that the guy got arrested, the bully went to the hospital, and now she says, "See, mission accomplished." And so she sets up a date with him, telling him to skip class, ditch school, and that's what happens. They set up a date. It's a normal date where they go to an aquarium, then an ice cream shop, and then you just build from there. But the protagonist asks a question, "Do you like me?" And she gives a pretty creepy answer, dude. That no, she doesn't have any kind of love for him or even romantic interest. What she sees in him is just a puppet she wants to control the strings of for happiness or something like that. That's all, he's just her puppet. That kind of crushes the protagonist. He just stands there. But when it's time to go, Kiba's dad calls him, yelling at him, saying he skipped class, he's a disgrace, he shouldn't even come home and to die wherever he is. Well, he gets really sad and starts crying. But the girl starts hugging him, inviting him to her place. He says she shouldn't care since she doesn't feel anything for him. She says, "Oh, there's no unconditional love, but I'm someone who cares about my things. Isn't that enough?" And the protagonist ends up agreeing to go to her place. Yeah, he goes straight to her house, which is a big apartment. She's pretty rich, it seems, and they go watch a movie. Until his dad calls him again, saying he's coming to pick him up, that he saw he was at the apartment. Yeah, he put a tracker on his phone to find his son. Even though he said those awful things that he should die, it seems he cares a little, but he's probably a violent dad. But Tomoka says she'll talk to his dad. He didn't want her to and wanted to leave, but she went to talk anyway because he had no choice since he's just her puppet. The first thing she does is give him a ton of money. Seems like millions of yen, I do know. His dad calls her a lowlife, saying that money must be from prostitution, that she sold her body and all that. He probably thinks she's got an OnlyFans. But she says no, she's a powerful woman who made her money with investments and stuff, but that'll be explained later. The point here is that he doesn't want to take the money, but she says he has to, and she makes a call. No, he asks for his job because her dad owns a huge company where his dad works, the protagonist's dad. So he ends up asking for his job, and with no real choice, he's forced to take the money, and his son stays with the girl. They go back to watching the movie. You can tell she's a powerful psychopath, and she decides the protagonist needs a girlfriend besides her because she's not really a girlfriend. Yeah, she's just someone who wants to control him to make him happy. And to be happy, he needs to find a girlfriend. At school, they talk about who's going to be the protagonist's girlfriend candidate. And Tomoka says that girl cleaning the chalkboard seems like a good pick, so much so that she tells him to clean the board for her. And he does it, goes over, helps her and all that. She ends up thanking him and even liking him. And when he leaves, she keeps looking at him. I think she likes him. Later, she talks to the protagonist, saying she wants to go on a date with him, sort of to eat a donut. She's too shy to eat there alone, so she asked him to join her, and he agrees. But Tomoka says here that the protagonist wanted to hold an earpiece. Actually, put an earpiece in. Because she wants to hear everything, plus give orders to edit him, show him how to do things. and he agrees. So he goes on his date with the girl where Tomoka keeps giving him tips. Everything he says, she tells him what to say. And when they get there, she was going to pay the bill, but Tomoka says not to take the money and that he has to pay. And that's what he does. The girl asks, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he says, "No, not right now." Then she says, "Good," with a super psychopathic face, saying that if he did, you'd die. And here the conversation starts getting really weird. She starts saying strange things, asking tons of questions and all that, so much so that she says, "That earpiece in your ear, are you talking to someone else?" He denies it, but she calls him a liar. Then she starts crying, having panic attacks. If I were him, I'd have run, but anyway, he tries to calm her down and all that. He ends up taking the earpiece out, like I told you, and then she says she wants to go home. He says he'll take her, and she invites him into her house, and he agrees to go in. I don't know why he agreed to that, but when he goes in and turns his back, he takes a hit to the back. She hits him, and he passes out right there. But when he wakes up, he sees her half naked and all that. He screams, asking, "Why are you half naked?" And she says it's because she doesn't want to get blood on her clothes. Yeah, she was going to eliminate him, so much so that she grabs a knife and says, "I'm going to slash your pretty face and kill you, then hide your body." She's totally crazy, this girl. He only doesn't get eliminated because Tomoka shows up right then, banging on the door. But she wasn't going to open it, she'd finish him off first. But Tomoka manages to open the door with a thief's trick, and then she says, "You're the one messaging him through the earpiece? You're dead." And yeah, she attacks her, but she defends herself. But she tells her she only did this because she wanted him happy, to show him true happiness, where she'd be useful in that moment to bring real happiness too. And she starts telling her story, that she's a little girl who suffered with her parents. But the thing is, she created a personality, a second personality, an alter ego that protected her. Yeah, it's a second identity. And she ends up planting a big kiss on the girl's mouth. It seems she liked the kiss so much, so she agrees and all that. But to seal the deal, she tells her to kiss the protagonist. Yeah, and she ends up kissing the protagonist. It looks like she got manipulated by Tomoka. And Tomoka just watches, observing them kissing. But then she says she's going to punish Kiba because he turned off the earpiece, and she didn't like that. And the punishment is putting a piercing in his tongue. Yeah, she grabs a needle out of nowhere and tells her to hold him. Then she pierces his mouth. In the end, he gets a free piercing, so much so that he thinks she's a demon. Then she starts hugging him, and right after, she wants to see a really spicy relationship there. So much so that she tells the girl with the second personality to do a lustful act, really lustful. It only doesn't happen because a weird guy shows up, who'd be her dad, or sort of. You'll get it soon. This guy gets jealous of his daughter, so to speak, and she says, "How did he find her?" He says he put a tracker on her. She immediately says he's disgusting for doing that. But in the end, he says, "Why is she doing all this for a guy like Kiba?" Acting superior, she says she's living with him. So he gets kind of shocked and says he'll talk to Kiba alone, taking him for a drive. And then he asks a question like this, "You have to answer my question. If I don't like the answer, I'll cause an accident here and we'll both die. Comment the opposite of living between them is..." And yeah, they talk and all that, but he says he kissed her and he gets shocked. No, he speeds up the car straight toward his death. But in the end, he says it's all to protect her, that she kissed him, and he has to protect her because she saved his life. And then he tells his backstory, how he was a guy like him with personal problems and met her when she was a tiny little kid. Yeah, he's not her real dad, more like an adoptive dad, while her real dad literally beat her. That's because she got bad grades to get her dad's attention, who didn't give her much anyway. So when she got attention, it was through beatings. But at some point, he died of cancer, and she didn't show much reaction. Her reaction was always cold and calculated, more or less, according to Tomoka's dad, who adopted her afterward. And on top of that, she gave him a big chunk of her dad's company shares so he could manage it, and she could just live her life. At least that's what happened in their past. Then it cuts back to the present, where he was falling towards certain death. But he got lucky again, landing in a bunch of tree bushes, just with some scratches at most. Anyway, it seems he's really lucky to escape alive. And in the end, they go back home laughing and even getting along. He even says he didn't want him living with her since she's a woman living with a man, which isn't cool. The protagonist even agrees, but when he goes to talk to her, she gives him a scary stop-it face, and he kind of has no choice. Neither does he. Her dad ends up saying that if he chooses, he'll have to live with her, but he quickly threatens the protagonist. Don't do anything wrong. And that's where I'll end it, because I think this is the most complete analysis I can do. So if you liked it, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and see you next time.